Hey guys, Matt Science here, and today I am back for day number 2 of r/ProRevenge. Where, considering the last episode, I literally only read 2 stories, yet somehow it was like a 22-minute long video, excluding the intro. Yeah, I have already got an indication of just the wildness of these stories to come, considering the length of them. So, again, I only have 2 stories for today, but let's get into the fucking madness of this. Starting with Apple's holier-than-thou attitude is their undoing in court. A few disclosures before we begin. I was an Apple retail employee for 2 years and amicably resigned in favor of full-time post-college employment several months before this unfolded. Additionally, the central issue of this post seems minor. I didn't want to change my password, so some may find this more appropriate for r/ProRevenge. But as it involves an extensive court battle, I think r/ProRevenge is a better venue. Though the main issue will definitely make me look petty. It was the straw that broke the camel's back based on Apple's pompousness throughout the issue. Okay, let's get into the story. About a year and a half ago, I was having issues with both my MacBook and iPhone, and went on to schedule a Genius Bar appointment. This used to be an easy task. You just went to the support side and scheduled one. But over time, Apple has foolishly attempted to reduce the load on the Genius Bars by putting up various roadblocks to getting an appointment. I assume Angela had just has just decided that this is cheaper than hiring more staff, and that most of the customers are rabid enough to still buy Apple Tech despite the blow this causes to decent customer service. I want to see who Angela is. Oh, her. I don't really know her. But she joined Apple in 2014. Okay. Okay, let's get back to the story. After finally jumping through a number of hoops to get a Genius Bar appointment, I'm prompted to enter my Apple ID and password. I'm told that since it's been 3 months, I need to change it, for what is now probably the 10th time since I had that Apple ID. I can continue to use it on the App Store and iCloud and such, but if I want a service appointment, I must change it. Having gone through this for the last several times to get an appointment, I finally hit my wit's end and decided it's an unnecessary step to just get my product serviced and escalate the matter through the BBB. Apple's initial response to the BBB is a form letter saying that I needed to just change the password because it's in my best interest for security reasons, and that they won't make any exceptions. I respond again, indicating that this is bad customer service and incongruent with the Apple Credo customer service principles that all employees are trained in. Their response that Apple considers this matter closed. I hate that response. It's corporate speak for "you're not worth our time anymore, go away." The BBB closed the case shortly thereafter. I do some research and determined that through my AppleCare Plus policy that I was paying for on both devices, there was actually no catch-all clause for why Apple could refuse to service the device. There were several exclusions, but arbitrary account security requirements were not part of them. I file suit in small claims court for replacement value of the laptop and phone. Here's where things got interesting. I show up to the court date and the case is called. I come up to my podium at the defendant's podium, and at the defendant's podium appears the manager from the store I used to work at. It was in the same county as the court, but significantly further away than an Apple store that was actually a mile from the courthouse. I never confirmed this, but I think Apple didn't pay attention to the details of the complaint on the form just did a name lookup and assumed that because I had previously worked at the store, that this was some employment dispute. The judge asked me to explain why I am suing, and in about a minute I'm able to concisely explain that Apple was putting up an unnecessary and extra contractual blockade to me getting a service appointment for my broken devices, so I was suing to replace the devices. The judge then turns to the store manager, who has arrived at court in a t-shirt and jeans. I am in a full suit out of respect for the court, but not before asking for Apple's side of the story. Asks if the manager is a lawyer. The manager says he is not. The judge says that my state laws require that only a chief executive or registered agent can represent a company in court, or they have to hire a lawyer to remove it to a higher district court. The manager responds that he understands, but that he's happy to set up a Genius Bar appointment right here, right now, at my convenience to get the products repaired. The judge deems this reasonable. We agree on a time for me to come to my old store for service, and the case is continued for 2 weeks out on the chance that things don't work out. I attend my appointment and the technician is able to resolve all of my issues, and in addition, a senior Apple technician contacts me by email to indicate that he's overridden the password expiration requirement on my Apple ID, and I will never have to change it again. Cool deal, but I'm still out $60 for filing this court case to actually get things moving along. I appear for the continued court date, and the same manager appears again too. The docket is especially busy on this date, and we have a different judge who is slashing through cases. No nonsense. We were called, and I indicate that while we were able to resolve the issues with my equipment since the original trial, and am no longer seeking replacement for the value of my products, I should not have had to sue Apple to get this type of treatment that align with their contractual obligations as me as an Apple Care Plus customer, and believe that I should be awarded the $60 in court fees. The judge turns to the store manager and asks if he is a lawyer. Manager says no. Judge number 2 gives him the same spiel, and manager retorts that he still believes that the court fees shouldn't be Apple's responsibility because blah blah blah. And judge, pressed for time, turns to me and says, I assume you don't want to have to come back here again for them to get a lawyer? I say no, thinking that he's going to give me the full 60, but instead he says, okay, then you'll just split it so we don't have to waste any more time on this. 30 to the plaintiff. According to my state laws, a prevailing party gets all of their court costs. As such, I really disagree with the way the judge handled that, splitting it because he was in a hurry. I reached out to Apple's paralegal, who had emailed me right after the original trial to confirm that Genius Bar appointment, cite the relevant law, and say that the judge was pretty clearly in the wrong, and asked Apple to just cut me a check for the full 60. Otherwise, I'd have to appeal, which is an extra $125. They would surely lose, and then owe me $185. I was more or less appealing to their common sense. They didn't have any responding that they should follow the court's judgment only and cut a check for $30. I think their pompousness continued in assuming that I was bluffing about the appeal. So I appealed. Since the small claims court is a subordinate of the district court, it actually got appealed to the highest court in the county, the circuit court. This is big boy court. No bullshitting. I appeared for my court date, and again, the same manager shows up. The judge is a bouncy guy in the bow tie. Clearly had his coffee and it's pleasant to everyone. I present my case that the lower court only awarded me partial costs, and the state law required that I get the entire amount since judgment was entered in my favour. Judge turns to the manager. Are you a lawyer? He says no, but he has a letter from Apple's chief legal counsel saying that it's okay with them that the manager represents them. The judge does not like this, and his demeanor changes immediately. Apple does not decide what you can or cannot do in my courtroom. You need an attorney, so we'll probably need to continue this case. Judge turns to me. Do you object to a continuance for the defendant to get an attorney? I say, yes, I do, Your Honor, because they've actually been told 3 times that they need to have a lawyer. And they keep disrespecting this court by sending the same layman to argue on their behalf. Judge turns to the manager, and with a sarcastic grin, and obviously fake, it's out of my hands, gesture, says, sorry, judgment is entered in my favor for $185. And as if that wasn't good enough, after 30 days, Apple still hasn't paid. I reach out to the paralegal again, and they say that they are still looking into their options, as if they're going to appeal to the state Supreme Court, which had to be done within those 30 days. Again, Apple thinks that they're too good to follow court instructions or do what's best for them. But they seem to have forgotten that I used to work from them. I had my credit union look up one of the old ACH transactions from my payroll and ask them what bank that was drafted from. They tell me Wachova. Wachovia? I go back to court, file garnishment proceedings against Apple via Wachovia. I was able to skip the discovery portion since I already knew where they were keeping at least $185. And Wachovia, of course, cuts me a check within days. TLDR, Apple are pompous assholes who just won't do what's best for them in a customer relationship. Refuse to do a basic service via customer service channels, gets sued, continuously disrespects court orders to involve legal counsel instead of hippie in jeans, and gets the hammer from a circuit court judge. Doesn't pay their judgment, gets it garnished out of their payroll account. Again, why do the TLDRs have to be so long? I don't get why. But, customer and company relationship, you gotta do what's good. And then, if you don't do it, you're gonna lose that connection. It's gonna get severed. And then everyone's just gonna be like, what was Apple? It's like, here's Apple. Wait, what was Apple? It's just like, how dumb can you be? It's just like, hey, it's only a $60 situation, and the company makes like billions of dollars. Oh my god. Let's move on to the next one. Last story for today. While we're on the subject of homeowner associations, here's the story of how my parents' HOA tried to use a 40-year-old rule to stop them from repairing hurricane damage and got the shaft for their trouble. Oh. Ooh, this one's gonna be brutal, isn't it? A few months back, as you all may remember, Florida got pretty beaten up by a couple of hurricanes. My folks lived down there, and while none of the damage that they sustained was life-alteringly horrible or home-destroying, homeowners insurance kicked in and they had some water damage through the roof. They also needed a new one because of all the shingles that had come off debris that had punctured it. My folks looked through roofing options and determined that a metal roof would be a great option to reduce damage, maintenance on their home. Plus, it would serve as a more energy efficient option with passive solar collection and fewer thermal losses in the summer/winter. It's more expensive, but my dad was basically r/personal finance incarnate while I was growing up. I've never heard of that subreddit at all. He's in his 60s and has finally concluded that he has fuck you money so long as that community is concerned. So the roof was a good investment. It looked like a win-win-win with that roof. Then they reviewed the HOA and saw that, as of 1989, metal roofs are prohibited in the neighborhood, subject to fines and mandatory removal. Reviewing the bylaw further showed that it was clearly referring to older, crappier tin roofs, not a proper metal one like today's market provides. Which looks great and has all of those other benefits. My folks wanted to play by the rules though, and called up the HOA to explain the situation. HOA was friendly and said that they would be looking into that bylaw, and that my folks weren't the only ones who requested that they be allowed to have a metal roof. My parents couldn't get a roofing contractor in for a few months anyway. Too much demand since everyone else's roof got wrecked. So they waited a few weeks and got nothing new out of the HOA. Tried again a few weeks later. Nothing. After 2 months of this, they said fuck it and started construction on the metal roof. Popular opinion in the neighborhood was on their side, and the roof was covered with a tarp that wouldn't last forever. The new roof got installed over a course of a few days, and then we found out the HOA's shittiness. Oh, yeah. Come on, let's pop it off. The neighborhood has a nice brick sign out front that says "Welcome to the Neighborhood" name. It's very classy, very nice, and was very damaged in the hurricane. The HOA was strapped for money due to other repairs / dues, and some prick had the bright idea to impose as many fines as they could on the neighborhood to pay for these repairs, starting with my folks. They served my folks with a letter claiming that they were in violation of HOA and demanded a $25,000 fine and that they remove it, which is, of course, absurd. My poor mother is very much a play-by-the-rules sort, and she was worried sick. Dad's ex-Navy and a contract negotiator. He essentially checked his 60-year-old knuckles and said, "Oh, you little shits wanna play, do ya?" So they set about researching and making some calls. Poor mum kept waking up at 1 a.m. unable to sleep, and I felt terrible for her as she went through this. But then they had a breakthrough. A few weeks after being served, I'm fuzzy on the timeline since I don't live in Florida, it may have been less, and there was essentially a burn them at the stake meeting of the HOA where my parents could defend themselves for an absurdly short amount of time, and the HOA could rip into them for daring to defy their wrath. So my mum, because she's more social and has a better temper than Dad, comes up to speak and lets the HOA know that they can't do this. HOA smirks and says that they sure can. They have a 40-year-old statute saying that they can. Mum says, "You do, but I have state law on my side which supersedes your statute." Turns out there's a law in Florida stating that HOA, or really any regulation, cannot be used to prevent an eco-friendly improvement from taking place on anyone's private property. And wouldn't you know it, the passive solar of the metal roof counts as an eco-friendly improvement. Turns out the roofing contractors have dealt with similar stuff before. When Dad mentioned what was going on, the contracting officer pulled out a few layers of accreditation and a few past cases where the court had determined that their product was eco-friendly and forced the HOA to pay all legal fees. My mum produced all this for the shitty HOA, who had to admit that this was in fact ironclad. Strapped for money as they were, they couldn't afford to pay a lawyer. HOA head growls, "Is that all?" Mum turns up the sweetness to 11. "No, I see in the bylaws that we can vote to impeach board members at any HOA meeting and to elect their replacements. I move to impeach all of you. I nominate my husband and rouse off a list of names." HOA is stunned. While Dad looks into the legal, Mum looked into the new neighborhood. Popular opinion was on their side, and the hearing was public for the neighborhood. Mum convinced a majority of the homeowners to attend and remove the board for their crappy policy. With that, my parents are now all are now on the new board, and Dad is putting his contract negotiation skills / own craftsmanship skills to work repairing the front entrance. And metal roofs are now allowed by the all new HOA. Nice. Just like, we can institute a 4-year-old rule and make sure your roof never gets, like, make sure you never have a metal roof on your house. Like, and then she's just like, bitch, have my beer. And it's just like, take this. And just be like, I got something here that basically says we're allowed to have a metal roof. And also, I want to just get rid of you now. I just want you all out, and I'm going to take over. That is really good. Oh my gosh, I don't even know what to say. I don't know how to comment on stuff, I will admit. I'm going to end this episode here. Links will be in the description to my main channel and also this channel that you're on right now that has links to the playlist and the last episode. Go check them all out. It's over 90 episodes. It's soon going to be over 100 episodes. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when the next video comes out. A ding, a ding. And the Mad Scientist out.